It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Montreat College head softball coach, Coach Kelsey McCue Long. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well today, Brandon. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm super excited to sit down with you.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in college softball?
Sure. I feel like I've always wanted to stay connected to the game, but the desire to become a college softball coach came from realizing how much of an impact I would have on players, just not as an athlete, but as a person. Over my playing career, I had a really good experience at Mount Aloysius, which is a Division III school in Pennsylvania, and our pitching coach there made a really big impact on me. And so some of the things that he really instilled in us are some things that I still implement today. So he was definitely a big influence on me when I stepped into this role.
What was that experience like going to college at Mount Alicia College and getting to play softball?
Definitely my time at the Mount was special. It was really rewarding. Thankfully, I was there obviously to do more than just play softball. I was pursuing a nursing degree at that time. We had a really successful few years while I was there. I really got to learn about some commitment and teamwork and being resilient. And this experience was not just about the sport, it was about the community that was built around our program. So that's something that I really enjoyed. We held each other really accountable, supported each other, and worked towards a common goal.
During your time, what was that experience like putting on that uniform and representing them?
It was definitely an honor and a defining moment for me. It represented more than just being part of the team. It really reflected a lot of the hard work and commitment I had to being a part of something bigger than myself. I feel like everyone can kind of relate to that in a team setting. It really enforced my love for being a part of a team. Obviously, in college, your role's a little bit different than when you're in high school. And so sometimes that's being the best teammate, sometimes that's on the field. And those relationships I've built were um, something I'll never forget. I'm really in contact with some of the players I played with, and um, being able to put that jersey on was really special for me.
What was some of your biggest accomplishments as a softball player?
I think my biggest accomplishment was definitely non-related to playing and was being an all academic player while I was there. Of course, we always talk about nursing and athletics is pretty difficult. And so I was able to find myself on the dean's list while I was there, and still participating in softball. Also, my role was a little bit different when I was in college. I was in a closing position, so I grabbed a few saves while I was there as well.
For you, what was that transition like going from being in the medical field as a nurse to getting into coaching?
Yeah, I feel like the medical field and coaching is similar. I don't feel like it was such a big jump for me. Both careers are really rooted in helping other people, just kind of the perspective is a little bit different. And so instead of supporting patients through really difficult times, I've been able to support athletes through development on and off the field.
What was that experience like for you coaching on the high school level as a JV coach?
I really enjoyed my time in the JV position at Woodmont. I had an incredible experience there. I worked with some really great coaches, Coach T and Coach Frankie McClear. They kind of helped pave the way as far as my coaching style. It allowed me to step into my first true leadership role where I could really help develop younger athletes in an established program. For many of the players, it was their first real exposure to competitive softball. We've had a really competitive high school team while I was there, so I love being able to guide them through that transition.
What was that experience like working as a program director for the Diamond Cats?
I think being a director was probably one of the most challenging things I've ever done as far as a leadership role. It definitely pushed me to grow not only as a coach, but as an organizer, a communicator, and a mentor. It wasn't just about running practices or coaching games at that point. It was really about building a program with a clear vision where players and coaches could really believe in that mission.
For you, what was that experience like going to Spartans Methodist and being the pitching coach?
Yeah, so my time at Spartanburg Methodist was a little bit short. I was there for the fall until there was a coaching change made there. It definitely was a great experience. It was my first experience in collegiate coaching, and so that was fun. It was a smaller JUCO program at that time. They since then have joined the NAIA, are now in our conference. So I'll get to see some of those players again, and a lot of them have a lot of grit and work, high work ethic. So I'm excited to see them this spring again.
First coming to Montreal, what was that experience like being a pitching coach and the volunteer assistant?
Yeah, my experience here was a little bit different. The staff was definitely more established. Corbin was in a first year rebuild. So historically, the team was coming off of, I think, a 10-win season. And Corbin was making transition from baseball to softball. And so he gave me total range of our pitching department. At that time, I had 6 pitchers. 5 of them were returning. One was a new transfer for us. It was nice to really um, just kind of dig in with them and develop them and see their um, development through the season.
What were some of the things that you learned during your time as a pitching coach and an associate head coach?
I think I've learned there's more to it than just the game, right? So we have to build relationships. Um, I'm very much like a holistic approach to coaching, and I know that that is a more common trait, I feel like, for coaching. And so I kind of look at things a little bit different, making sure athletes are taken care of not only mentally and physically, but spiritually. So that's a big thing that I've taken away since I've been here.
For you, what was that feeling like getting announced to become the next head coach?
I've been super excited. I've been at Montreat for the last 2 seasons, and so this I'll be going into my third season this year, and just being able to really build a bond with these girls and continue to be here for them and kind of live out a dream that I never knew that I had as a child. We all want to play in college, but we never think about getting to be around the game for the rest of our life. So I'm super excited for that.
For you, what is that feeling like stepping onto that field for the first time as a head coach?
Well, I haven't had any games since I've been appointed in the head coach position. So I'm excited this fall to really lead the girls in a way that I feel like best represents me and our program and our school. So we're super excited for that in the fall.
What have been some of the things you've been able to accomplish so far during your time at Montreat?
In the last 2 years, we've had 2 30+ win seasons. We have beat a top 25 ranked team this year. I also was lucky to be able to coach Victoria Alcantar, who was the #1 in saves in the NAIA this year. I believe she had 9, which was awesome. And we've had several all academic players, along with Abby Wyatt being our freshman of the year this year.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a head coach versus for your players?
Yeah, so for me and the staff, it's a little bit different. We usually come in, get things together. I like to sit down with our staff and go over anything that we need to for the game plan. I am a prepper, so typically a lot of our game plan stuff is done far in advance, few days in advance, as far as scouting reports and things go. But I like to spend some quiet time before we get ready to head to the field and pray with my staff. And as far as our girls, it kind of depends on the day. If it's a weekday game or a weekend game, they're showing up to the field, spend some time in community together, get them warmed up. They spend some time and pray together before the game starts, and spend our afternoon playing the game that we love.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've started to build for Montreal?
Yeah, so I feel like our culture here is different. It's electric. The vision is very clear. It's much bigger than the game. I feel like if you're able to display that vision for yourself and your staff, your players are definitely going to buy into that. That's been a big role since I've been here, is the culture shift. So we definitely have a lot of structure in our program, but as far as the positive environment, nurturing them as athletes and humans and spiritually, has played huge parts in our culture here.
Who are some of the teams in your conference you compete against?
So we do play Reinhardt. They made a World Series appearance. Johnson, Truett McConnell, Tennessee Wesleyan, Columbia College, Columbia International, Bryan. Um, and then we're adding Spartanburg Methodist to our conference this year.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Spartan comes to home versus going away?
Yeah, so at home we typically draw a fairly large crowd to this to our field. And so it's really nice to just be out there with your fans and how excited they are. Our campus is very supportive of each other. We have a lot of athletes at Montreat, and so having some other sports teams and coaches and our athletic department out here cheering on your team is like nothing else. Obviously, when you're on the road, crowds are usually the opposite way. So we have to bring our own energy when we're on the road a lot of the time.
Of course, what does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate softball?
Yeah, so the recruitment process here is I typically like to see players either at a camp, a clinic, a showcase. I like to see them live is typically what happens. Try to build a relationship with them. Some of the players, if they reach out via email to me, I'm able to see some game footage or talk to their travel ball coaches or JUCO coaches. And then we like to have them on an individual visit. So that's something that we do a little bit different here versus doing a ton of prospect camps. I like the um, small, intimate kind of meeting with incoming players. So that gives us the ability to do that here. They get a tour, they come and they meet with me, and I typically like to work them out with the girls at practice.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen putting on that uniform for the first time versus seniors putting it on for the last time?
I think the freshmen are just so excited. It's a new experience for them. They're really just starting their career. And so, they're excited to get out there. Our freshmen, they put a little bit more thought into this could be their last game. And that's something we talked about a lot this year is playing like it's your last game, playing with no regrets. And so, we kind of see both sides where when they're really young and super excited. And then we have we had 2 5th years this year. And so I think they appreciated every day that they were able to put their jersey on again.
As a coach, what is it like getting to see them achieve those first big milestones in their careers, like first home runs versus 1,000 career point?
I feel like every accomplishment is super exciting. I get excited over the small things because I feel like the small things add up to the large things. And so it doesn't matter if it's your first collegiate hit or your 100th collegiate hit, I'm going to be excited. We're going to be cheering you on. And so that's kind of just how I feel about those.
What are some of your future plans and goals for the program moving forward?
Yeah, so last year we made our first postseason appearance in I think about 10 years. So I'd like to see us head back to the postseason and play in the AAC championship, hopefully. In the next 5 years, I'd love to see us make it to the World Series. I'd like to put Montreat on the map and in that area and kind of see where we go from there.
Of course, what has it been like getting to have those first few moments as a head coach? And what would you tell your younger self looking back on your career so far?
I think since I'm just starting this path, it's been important for me to take some time and really think about what I want the vision to look like. Anything different that I want to do with our program. Obviously, the last 2 years have been successful. I think I would tell my younger self to take in everything that I can learn from any coach that I've ever worked with, whether that's as a player, as another coach, and take their experiences to help me grow as a coach in this position right now.
What advice would you have those incoming freshmen entering their first year?
I would tell them they just need to relax. They get here and they're so nervous. Some of them are scared, and it's just a game. It is just a game. And so if we do the things that we do every day and we do them the right way, there's no reason for them to be nervous.
What advice would you have those seniors that are looking to go play professional softball?
I think the biggest part of professional softball now is marketing yourself. It's almost like starting the recruiting process all over again. So I know one of the requirements is they have to fulfill out their eligibility. So making sure they make the best of that time and being in contact with organizations that run professional softball. Now we're seeing AU make really big strides this year. And so just marketing themselves in a positive way and kind of thinking of it like recruiting all over again.
What advice would you give those players looking to get started into their coaching journey after playing?
I think my biggest piece of advice would be learn from those coaches that have influenced you. So take some positive things that you've learned from your coaching, from your playing career that you can implement in your coaching career. Also, to take some opportunities to grow. I volunteered for a long time before I decided to pursue in a serious matter, a serious full-time position as coaching. So I think those volunteer roles have taught me more than anything. It's a great time to kind of learn on your own.
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to get started in the journey as being a head coach for a softball program?
I would tell them to continue to educate themselves. Our game is changing rapidly. Educate yourself. I'm big on professional development. Obviously, my background is pitching, and so I educate myself thoroughly in that area, along with all other areas of the game. I would say network with other coaches, get a mentor. I know one of my biggest mentors is Maddie Armstrong. She's the associate head coach at Western Carolina, and she's been a really big influence on me to make this move.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the program app?
Yeah, so they can follow us on Twitter. We have the Montreat College softball Twitter. I also have a personal Twitter, Coach Kelsey McCue Long. We're also on Instagram and Facebook.
Thank you again, Coach Kelsey McCue Long, for your interview, and best luck in your future at Montreal College as the head softball coach.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Kelsey, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.